Rick, you've had a role in numerous of other transaction agreements at your time at DARPA. I'd like to hear your experiences, or at least one experience that you had that's particularly memorable.
There were numerous memorable experiences, as you can imagine. The very first OT with a venture capital supported startup company, big programs like the Technology Reinvestment Project or the Commercial Operations and Support Saving Initiative, Global Hawk. But perhaps the most memorable one is one of the first multi-party agreements that we did. Under the Air Force actually had the overarching program was called IPTET, the Integrated High Performance Turbine Engine Technology Program. The DARPA part of it, that was came about because DARPA had OT authority at this particular time, and the Air Force had not yet implemented OT authority. So the materials lab at Wright-Patterson, at Wright Field, came to DARPA and discussed how to effectuate a vision that they had for getting the jet engine manufacturers together to support research in high-performance ceramic fibers. And I'll say right at the beginning that this particular program that I'm going to describe had considerable payoff, and the most advanced jet engines today, the F-119 engine, the F-135 engine, all incorporate ceramic matrix components, both to save weight in the engine structure and also to allow for higher temperature performance. So in any event, the Air Force Material Lab wanted to push forward in this area, and they thought, rather than fund an individual company to do work, we'd actually like the entire gas turbine engine industry to move forward and advance the state of the art together. The Air Force's original idea was to have the companies put together a nonprofit organization and then have a grant issued. It turned out that Materials Lab, that Wright Field, did not have grant authority at that time, and when they went to Headquarters Air Force turned them down and said only the Air Force Office of Scientific Research can issue grants. They came to DARPA, and so we ended up with a joint program. Ultimately, NASA joined in, so we had 3 government agencies involved in funding: NASA Lewis Research Center, which is now NASA Glenn Research Center, the Materials Lab at AFRL, and DARPA put in money, and we had 7 gas turbine engine manufacturers putting in money. And so the basic structure of the agreement was a joint funding agreement where we all agreed to put in our money. The money was put in. The government money became obligated. Money was put into a bank account to be dispersed to projects that would move the technology forward. Now, the interesting thing about this is, of course, we had the whole industry together, which means that we had competitors sitting next to one another. General Electric did not want to be a subcontractor to Pratt & Whitney. Pratt didn't want to be a sub to General Electric or to Rolls. And in addition to these giant companies, we had Williams, we had Textron, we had people who built business jet engines, as well as the most high-performance jet engines going. So the actual agreement was structured so that we had DARPA signed the agreement on behalf of the government, but all 7 of the engine manufacturers separately assigned the agreement. They agreed on their own governance structure, how they would interface with the government. Their control of their governance structure was based on their financial contributions, and they rotated the lead position, the interface with the government, among the different companies. So, I mean, this just is an illustration of the flexibility that you have with other transactions. Industry then selected an organization that they called an integrating subcontractor. And the integrating subcontractor was supposed to go out and survey the industry and go out with requests for research projects, and then put those requests together, review them, present them to the governing board of industry, who would then select individual projects to be funded. Now, anyone could participate. There was no membership restriction or anything like that. You could be a garage startup, you could be a university, small company, large company. There was a condition, however. You had to, if you wanted to submit a proposal and you wanted funding, you had to be partnered with a materials manufacturer, someone who actually built things or delivered materials, because the purpose of this program was to get ceramic components into jet engines, not to publish papers, not to create intellectual property, but to actually have components and devices that could go into an engine, help reduce weight, increase performance. And it turned out that industry was able to work together. It worked out to the benefit of government and industry. For me, as a government lawyer, one of the, how shall I say this? One of the moments of truth was when I was looking over, the agreement was getting finalized. It was coming into final shape. And I went to the director of the materials lab at AFRL, and I said, the guy's name was Vince Russo, and I said, Vince, shouldn't the government have some sort of a veto or say in these projects? Because the way the agreement was structured, industry made all the decisions as to what projects would be funded. And he looked at me and he said, Rick, I got the smartest guys in the country working on this. If they can't figure it out, I'm not going to try to tell them how to do it. And I sat back for a while, and my guys, as a government lawyer, I kind of gulped, and I said, that actually makes a lot of sense. And so that's how the agreement was structured, and good things came out of the agreement, and the technology moved forward. And today we have high-performance engines incorporating a substantial amount of ceramic matrix components.
Well, if you would like to learn more about other transactions agreements, we have plenty of resources on our website at strategicinstitute.org.